In this presentation, we will be looking at factors involved in change management. Change management is a systematic approach to dealing with change, both from the perspective of the organization and on the individual level. A somewhat ambiguous term, change management has at least three different aspects, including adapting to change, controlling the change, and affecting change. A proactive approach to dealing with change is at the core of all three aspects. For an organization to change means defining and implementing procedures and/or technologies to deal with the changes in the business environment and to profit from the changing opportunities. Successful adaptation to change is as crucial within an organization as it is in the natural world. Just like plants and animals, organizations and the individuals in them inevitably encounter changing conditions that they are powerless to control. The more effective you deal with change, the more likely you are to thrive. Adaptation might involve establishing a structured methodology for responding to changes in the business environment, such as a fluctuation in the economy or a threat of a competitor, or establishing coping mechanisms for responding to changes in the workplace, such as new policies or technologies. In this presentation, we will look at three different change models. We'll look at the McKinsey 7S model, the Lewin change management model, and Kotter's 8-step change model. In the McKinsey 7S model, we look at shared values, strategy, structure, systems, style, staff, and skills. Shared values are the center of the model because it is what the organization believes in and stands for, such as the mission of the company's strategy. Strategy represents what the company plans to do to react to any changes of its external surrounding. Structure involves the structure of the organizational structure of the company. Systems are the portion of the model that represents the procedures, processes, and routines that characterize how the work should be done. Style signifies the organizational culture and management style that are utilized within the organization. Staff is quite obvious in the fact that it is a proper representation of who is employed by the organization and what they do within the organization. And finally, skills indicate the abilities and competencies of either the employees or the organization holistically. The benefits of the McKinsey 7S model are that 1, it is an effective way to diagnose and understand organizations. Second, it is a guide for organizational change. Third, it is a combination of both rational and emotional constituents. And fourth, all parts are interrelated, so all portions must be addressed and focused on. The major disadvantages in considering this model are, number 1, when one of the parts is changed, all parts change because they all are interrelated. And second, another major disadvantage is that this model ignores differences. In using this model, one should look and write down the differences and the similarities that they feel within their organization in each of these areas, and then as they institute change, to make the appropriate adaptation in all or in the one of the 7 areas, remembering that, as is indicated in the disadvantage, if you change one area, you may need to change. There are 3 phases to the Lewin change management model. The first phase is unfreezing, the second is transition, and the third phase is the refreezing phase. In the unfreezing phase, the majority of people tend to stay within certain safe zones and are hesitant of change. People tend to become comfortable in an unchanging environment and become uncomfortable when a change occurs, even if it is a minor one. To overcome the frozen state and initiate an unfreeze period, motivation of personnel is important. In the transition phase, the transition period is when the change is occurring. The transition period is a voyage and not a step. The transition period takes time because people do not like change. Leadership is critical for the change process to work. Reassurance that the change is good for the company as well as the employee is important and must be continuously reassuring the individuals as the change is happening. And then finally, in the refreezing stage, that's the stage where the company once again becomes stable and people begin to adapt to the changes in the environment. The benefits of the Lewin change model are that it is simple and easily understood model for change. The model is done through steps. And finally, the Lewin's model is an efficient model that is used often in today's business world. The disadvantage of the models is that it takes time. Secondly, at the refreezing period, many people are worried that another change is coming, so they are in change shock and therefore need to be assisted through this process. And finally, as change shock causes employees to not be as efficient or effective in their job, reassurance by leaders must be continuously taken into their activity in the leadership activities in order to effectively have people change in their jobs and what their performance is. Kotter's 8-step change model involves, number one, increased urgency for change. Second, build a team for the change. Third, construct the vision. Fourth, communicate. Fifth, empower. Sixth, create short-term goals. Seventh, be persistent. And eighth, make the change permanent. In looking at the increased urgency for change, we must convince the employees that this change is necessary for the company to survive. This also means that we must communicate that the change is achievable without any detrimental effects on their jobs. The second step of Kotter's 8-step change model is to build a team for the change, which requires the team to be developed of respected employees within the company in order for them to lead the change. The third step is to construct the vision, which will show clear direction for how the change will better the future of the company and the individual employees' jobs. Then the fourth step is to communicate this vision. In order for the vision to work, it must be fully understood by the employees, which means that it is necessary for the leaders of the change group to follow this vision and model the change. The fifth step is to empower the employees to execute the change. It is still important that the management follow the same guidelines as the employees are, again, modeling the change. The sixth step is to create short-term goals to assist the employees to accept the change by showing them progress. The seventh step is to be persistent, because we should influence more change even after the short-term goals are met, or the original plan for change will cease and die. So we must continuously persist at the plan and instituting the changes. And finally, make the changes permanent by moving and fitting it into the company's culture and practices, such as through promotions of the new ideas, involvement of other employees in reveling in the changes that have been made, and to assist individuals who are having difficulties with the changes. The benefits of the Kotter 8-step change model are that it's a step-by-step model which is easy to follow, and it does not focus on the change itself, but rather the acceptance and preparedness for this change, which makes an easier transition. The disadvantage is that no steps can be skipped, and any step or change process will completely fail if the steps are not followed sequentially. As you consider the implementation of your business plan, be sure to take into consideration the change models of McKinsey's 7S model, Lewin's change management model, and Kotter's 8-step change model in order to assist your organization and its people to effectively make the strategic changes that have been outlined in the business plan.